He's the head coach of the New York Jets at 4-2, going into Denver, Colorado in a Week 7 game. He is none other than Robert Saleh. How are you, Coach?
I'm doing great, Rich. And yourself?
Well, I've got all gas. I've got 0 breaks. I'm good. How are you?
There you go. I'm awesome. Every day is a blessed day.
When do you think, when you looked out at the field, you saw what we've seen the last 3 weeks? You saw the beginnings of it. What do you got for me on that front?
No, in all honesty, you going through OTAs and training camp, and we're still not even close to where I think this team's going to get. And I'm not trying to, downplay anything. We've got such a really cool core group of young guys, especially on offense. I mean, it seems like they're all first and second year players. And so they're not even close to gelling and hitting their full stride. We're still a bunch of 23-year-olds going against a bunch of 25 and 26-year-olds. And so it's really exciting to see the nucleus of this team kind of grow together and all the guys who are contributing offense, defense, special teams. So you kind of saw the energy and the juice and the speed during training camp, and we're still, like I said, I still feel like we're a long way to go, but it's at least people are starting to see the same things we saw.
Now, I know you mentioned the offense. Interesting, you did mention that, because the kid that I'm kind of looking at and circling and watching blossom, and I obviously you drafted a whole bunch of youngsters this year, is Quinnen Williams, and what he's doing and how he looks and how, the words all pro are easily rolling off my lips. What do you see with him, Coach?
Same thing. Being an interior D lineman coming into the league is one of the harder positions to learn, aside from quarterback. Obviously, we all know quarterback's the hardest one. But when you start getting into the trenches, especially at the D-line level, it's a completely different game in there compared to what they played in college. You're dealing with a different type of strength. You're dealing with a different type of speed. The way the ball comes out from a timing standpoint, just everything's different for those guys. And he was coming along his second year, and even last year, he dealt with that injury in training camp or in the spring that kind of, it didn't derail his season because I still felt like he played well. It didn't allow him to play and prepare the way he was able to this year. And I think he's showing everybody what he could have showed last year. I mean, the guy is, when you watch tape, the amount of power and strain and tenacity that he plays with is as good as anyone, and it's just really cool to see when guys put in the work they put in. For him to see it in the form of production is pretty cool.
And earlier this year, Coach, there was a question about his snap count and his displeasure with it and his voicing it and his being demonstrative about it on a sideline. And I'm wondering if something like that, obviously you don't want to see anything that could be construed from the outside looking in as problematic. But I'm wondering if something like that registered with you, with the staff, with the team, to see that this guy just feed them. He's a beast. Just feed him. Is that something that I'm picking up or off on? What do you got for me there?
No, he was never. I think Quinnen's all in on the D-line rotation. He was never. I'll defend that one in terms of he was never questioning the rotation. He just wanted a 4-man rush. In that moment, like he was like, I'm a dog, I can win a one-on-one, just let me rush. We don't need the blitz. You guys just go play coverage. Our D-line will take care of it. And what you love, that's what you want out of your D-line. I'm like, heck yeah, let's do it. Give him a 4-man rush. And and when you don't have to pressure, it's the best way to win football games. It's the only way, not the only way, but it's the most consistent way to be elite quarterbacks is to just overload the zones and play and win with a 4-man rush. It's the way I brought it up before. It's the way the old, the Giants beat that Tom Brady team with a 4-man rush. And, so he's never been demonstrative in that regard. He's only been demonstrative in challenging us to trust him to win his one-on-ones. And you want that from your players. You want them to strive for those opportunities. And, because his play time is up there with all. If you look at the teams that run our schemes, they're all very similar in that 68 to 74% range. Which, in the grand scheme of a game, you're talking about 2 or 3 plays. And so Quinnen is ultimate teammate. He's the ultimate locker room guy. He's the ultimate worker on the practice field. He's so coachable and guy. He's everything you'd want. He's like a poster child when it comes to being a professional football player.
He was everywhere in that backfield. He was everywhere, and in every phase of the game, he was truly unbelievable. It was one of the best games I've seen a Jet play in quite some time in Green Bay, and then. Just to see Sauce Gardner coming into his own as well. You know how I feel about him and the conversations we've had on the show beforehand and how you chose him first in the draft this year. I'm wondering, what did you think of the cheesehead on his head after the game, Coach? What did you think of that one?
Well, if you know Sauce, you laugh. Because you know his personality. He doesn't have a malicious bone in his body, and he was just embracing the moment and having a good time. Where there's other people who would put the cheesehead on, and you'd be like, "Man, that guy's being a jerk." But that's not Sauce. Anyone who knows Sauce knows he's fun-loving. Even when he talks smack on the football field, he does it in a fun-natured way. And I think he's just got this personality that gravitates people towards him. He's a great young man, and now do you want to do that and show up your opponent? You never want to do that, but knowing where his heart is and what he was doing, everyone in this building and anyone who's had a conversation with him knows he doesn't have a malicious bone in his body.
And Breece Hall is just beginning to shine that light as well that caused you guys to, I'm sure, maybe have a bit of a sleepless night from Thursday to Friday of draft week where you knew he was still in play and you knew you had a shot to go get him and you knew you could kind of trade all the way up to the first spot of the first night to make sure it happened, but didn't. He's just been dynamite. Is he your bell cow back? Is that the plan for him, Coach Saleh?
No, this is what's great about our system, because Michael people better not sleep on Michael. Michael got 7 carries in the game, especially in that fourth quarter when we started committing to the run game a little bit more, and he churned out explosive yards. He has a couple of touchdowns rushing. So we've got 2 backs that can go off at any moment. As it pertains to Breece, he's the hot hand right now, and he's done a lot of really, really good things. But just like I'd say about Quinnen, eventually teams are going to gear down to try to stop you. And it's like, great, do that, because then it's going to create one-on-one opportunities for Carl Lawson. It's going to create one-on-one opportunities for Michael Carter. It's going to create one-on-one opportunities for Corey Davis and all the other receivers. So his emergence is awesome because it's going to create opportunities for all the guys that we feel like would strive in a one-on-one situation. And so we're excited about the direction that it's going, obviously, and teams are going to start gearing to focusing and trying to take people away, and we just got to be ready to counter when we can, and we've thankfully have the pieces to do that.
New York Jets head coach Robert Saleh here on the Rich Eisen Show. You mentioned your receiving core a little bit right there, Corey Davis and the rest of the receivers. I'm sure you knew I would be asking you about this question because it is the season of trade deadline nearing, and so many other teams out there, you just visited one, would love to have a young receiver who wants out of another organization. And Elijah Moore has made it known he is not pleased with the current situation. And what is his current status right now, Coach?
I'm going to go on record. I do want to say, Elijah's a good kid. And so obviously whenever you do something like this, perceptions can be made and people will, and obviously perception's reality, all that stuff. But Elijah's a good kid. He's an absolute competitor and wants to help this team win. In his mind, if he's not able to do it here, he'd love to do it somewhere else. Well, he is going to be a big part of why we are successful. He is a huge part of this, and he's a good kid, a competitor. He is not disrespectful. He's a phenomenal young man. I want to make sure that's clear. But he's fine. He's in the building. Obviously, he's not going to play this weekend. He's got a workout regimen that he's going to follow over the next 3 days, and he'll rejoin the team on Monday. But as far as we're concerned, there's no intent in trading. We're not trading Elijah. For all the reasons why another team would love to have him. Well, we love that we have him, and he's going to be a big part of this, and he's part of the reason why when a guy like Breece Hall gets attention paid to him, or Corey Davis or Garrett Wilson, it's why we can continue to keep pick your poison. You can pick Braxton. You can focus on Elijah. You can focus on Garrett. You can focus on the tight ends, 2 backs, Corey. What do you want to do? And when those guys are all operating and hitting on all cylinders, it's very hard for a team just to focus on one guy because we can just run our offense. We don't have to. It's not just, okay, everyone knows it's going to this person, so let's just double and triple team them and take everyone away. So we're kind of spoiled in that regard, and they're very young too. They're very young, so as they continue to find their niche and their style of play, it's only going to get better.
So he won't be on the team plane to Denver this weekend, Elijah?
He will not.
Okay.
He'll be here.
So, and when you mentioned earlier on in this conversation that the team's not close to where you think it can be, would you throw the passing game in that bucket right there, Coach?
It's everything. Can we get the run game going earlier? Can we get the pass game going earlier? I've referenced it a couple of times. Like in that Pittsburgh game, we're down 2 scores going in the fourth quarter, and our pass game flexed its muscles. I think people forget that already, and went over 70 yards on 2 different drives against a really good defense in a hostile environment in a stadium that nobody wins in when Renegade plays to start the fourth quarter. And Zach and the passing attack and the protection was flawless, and we win a football game. And then the last 2 weeks we've been blessed in the sense that we've been able to seize control of a game in the fourth quarter with our run game and our defense. And so I don't think the pass game's lagging. I think we played the 5th ranked defense in football, a team that just prides itself on stopping the pass game, and we took what the defense was giving us, which was the run game. And now we're playing another team that's every bit as good as the team we played last week from a defensive standpoint, if not even better. And they're playing at a high level, and by all means necessary, we got to find a way to move the ball. So I don't think the pass game's lagging, but at the same time, I don't think it's anywhere near where it's going to go because they're all pups. They're all first and second year players still trying to find their footing. And I think if I'm a fan or if I'm a player or if I'm a coach in this organization, I'm really, really excited. And if I'm not in this organization and I'm on the outside looking in, not a fan or a coach for another team, I'm very nervous about what's being created here.
Robert Saleh here on the Rich Eisen Show. So before I let you go, where are the receipts you were talking about earlier this year? Where do you keep those?
No receipts. No.
There's no. Where do you keep them? In a drawer somewhere? There's no receipts. There's no.
They're somewhere stashed away, and it's going to take a long time for those ever to come out.
Okay.
We got to do a heck of a lot more winning than this. So.
Okay. Well, I know for sure on those receipts, wherever they do reside, the words Rich and Eisen are not on those receipts. They do not.
Absolutely not. You're one of the loyal ones.
I put on a lone wolf hat on NFL game day morning this week when the rest of my crew said Green Bay is going to win the game. And I said the cards are going to be put on the table by the Jets this week, and the last 50 years are over. They're going to tell people it
I
is
saw that. That was awesome.
over.
That was awesome.
Over. And I believe it. I really do. I see what I'm seeing. I see what I'm seeing. I see what you're cooking. I see what you're doing. And I believe it. And so I ask my next question in that spirit here, that yes, you've got a big game against Denver, but the 2 Bills are coming up, Belichick and Buffalo. Those are the ones at home. Yeah. Those are the ones at home when you want to win your division and announce arrivals. Those are the ones. And I'm wondering how you envision week 8 and week 9. And I know I'm talking to a head coach in the NFL about something not this week, but I have to ask you, since I have you here now, how you view that before your bye, Coach Saleh.
No, that's a fair question. And here comes the cliche. Obviously, we got Denver.
Yes.
But we pound in this building day in and day out, own the moment. And owning the moment isn't just showing up. It's isn't just being, walking in the building. It's showing up with intent to treat every moment like a championship moment. So when we get those moments, we'll treat them accordingly. But in the meantime, we're focused on Denver.
Understood. How according? Let's talk about the accordingly. You know what I mean? It's Belichick and it's Buffalo. We know what this means, right? We know what this means.
It's always exciting when you get a chance to play. Division opponents. All that is awesome and exciting, and but they're no bigger than last week. They're no bigger than this week. They're no bigger than the week after. It's when you start making games bigger than they need to be that they become. It's when it makes other games not championship like, and every game's a championship moment.
I understand that. Win those games, and you want to talk about a rival being announced? Oh my goodness gracious! That honestly, I'm jumping out of my skin a little bit about that, and I'm wondering if you have to do the same with these young kids. You've mentioned kids, pups, over and over again in this conversation, and rightfully so. You've got a very young, talented team filled with kids who came from winning programs. So, do you sometimes need to, calm them down a little bit, like you're doing to me right now? A little bit.
I don't know if they know any better yet. That's the best part about it. They don't know the long history. They don't know the past. They don't know. They're new to the division. So they don't know all the stories, and they will as they start playing in these games, and they're told stories with questions, and they're reading media guides and whatever it is. They'll start to learn the stories, and friends who are fans will tell stories about years past, and that's kind of how the rivalry gets built. And then something happens. It's just. A lot of this will happen organically, but what's great about this team is they're so focused on the moment and finding ways to just improve every day. And it's not all going to be clean. Like I said, we've got a long way to go, but I do think it's exciting to see all this happening.
Coach, appreciate the time. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you out the door about your old spot and knowing the front office the way that you do, and Shanahan and Lynch and Jed York the way that you do, that they pushed that button on McCaffrey last night. What'd you think of when that might have crossed your mind there?
I woke up this morning to it, and Kyle is a phenomenal. Kyle and John and the way they operate out of there is as good as anybody in ball. Everyone's in sync, everyone's in unison, and they know exactly which players they want to make to help their systems roll the way they need to. So I am not surprised. I'm just glad he's not in Buffalo.
Okay. Good answer, sir. Good answer. Thanks for the time. Best of luck in Denver, and let's connect down the line. Truly appreciate it.
Million times over. Thank you so much, Rich.
Right back at you. That's the head coach of the New York Jets, Robert Saleh, right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.